This is FBG Jen.
And FBG Kristen.
And I'm FBG Margo, host and producer. You're listening to the podcast that will help you keep a lid on the junk in the trunk and inspire you to live a happy and confident life.
Each episode, we chat with motivational experts and celebs and share our own candid adventures in being healthy.
If you're looking for a podcast that's equal parts hilarious and enlightening, well then welcome to the Fit Bottomed Girls podcast.
Welcome back to the Fit Bottomed Girls podcast. This is FBG Margo, and on the line today we have Jen.
Hello, hello.
And we have Kristen.
Hi.
And Jen, you weren't there. Kristen and I were very, very lucky. Today our guest is Travis Brorsen, and he has a show on Animal Planet called My Big Fat Pet Makeover. And he's basically helping pet owners with chubby pets help them slim down. And I was saying to you off the air, but Kristen and I, when we were talking to him, he is possibly the nicest person we've possibly had on the show so far. And we've had some awesome people.
Aw, I can't wait to hear it.
Yeah, he's a total sweetheart. And so the show just launched. And so basically the show is, what you do is they have pets that have weight issues. I'll just be really blunt. And I loved the first episode. They had this beagle, and I forget the beagle's name, but he was like 46 pounds. And he really needed to slim down. And the owners were very indulgent with him. But they had a thing. They left their people treats in their backpacks. And this beagle was smart enough and clever enough to get into the backpacks and eat the treats. So they learned they had to put the treats away. And then, Kristen, you were telling us you have a similar story.
Yeah, so I have three animals, 2 dogs and a cat. My oldest dog, Rudy, is a lab mix. And anybody who's had a lab knows that like beagles, they tend to really, really, really like food. So as she was growing up, she got into a lot of stuff, but we've had a couple of occasions where it's actually gotten really dangerous. And one of them was she got into some people medications that for whatever reason smelled good to her. Yeah, that was a week in the ICU. She's now, the exciting news is that she's now in some medical or veterinary journals because she's the only dog to have survived that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, and this is like, medication that was like in a drawer. And then we had more recently, I had a box of protein bars that was, in a cardboard box, boxed up and sealed. And it was in my office ready for me to look into and review. And I came home one day and what do you know, but she had eaten into the cardboard box and eaten a bunch of the bars, which then sent her not only into, she had pancreatitis, which is really dangerous for dogs, and then also acute renal failure, which had been the issue with the other incident. So it's really important, like if you have a dog who, and she's now extra hungry because she has seizures, so she's on a medication that just makes her like super hungry, and I feel so bad for her because, we've all been really hungry and been ready to eat stuff that, like whatever's in front of us, right? But we at least have the control to say like, okay, so I don't have anything that's appropriate for eating here. Like I'm going to go to the store and buy, even if that's like, I'm going to go buy a protein bar. But yeah, she was just sitting there like being really hungry. And so that was another few days in the ER, but she came back out and she's fine. But we now, we had to go back to crating her when we were gone because she couldn't be trusted. And we're really careful about putting everything up. And like when we have dog sitters, they sometimes laugh when I've got like these like very specific instructions, but I'm like, literally, like if you have stuff in your room, it has to either be put up or it needs to be like, you need to just have the doors closed if you're not there watching, because she will just eat it. She will eat boxes. She will eat anything. So we do like, we haven't done this for a while because she's kind of gotten things under control, but we were adding, shredded carrots and stuff to her food because that adds some bulk and some fullness without adding a whole bunch of calories. Because, the other thing is she's 10 years old and she's a little bit arthritic. Like we can't have her put on more weight than she has. So it turns into this, I think that a lot of times people see like, they're kind of fat pet and they're like, oh yeah, they try to eat everything. But like, it really can become a very serious matter very quickly in certain situations. So if you have a pet and if you're maybe adjusting their food or their medication or anything, and you see that they're like exceptionally hungry, I would urge you to be a little extra cautious with where things are. And you think they can't break into something, but they just, if they're desperate enough, they really might figure out a way. Even the dumb dogs can seem really smart when food's in play.
Kristen, did I tell you that that Sienna? Okay, so Sienna, my dog, she's gonna be 10 in like less than a month now, so she's kind of getting up there a little bit, but she never like will hang out in my office unless it's raining. Like then she wants to be right by me, but the rest of the time she's like always in like a different part of the house. She's never in my home office. And the other day I heard her in here, and I was like, what is she doing? That's so unusual. Why would she be in there? And then I heard this rustling around, and I was like, oh dog, what are you doing? And I had a whole bunch of Cheerios set out. Like they'd sent me a whole bunch of their new flavors.
Oh boy.
And she was just like, yeah, and the box was closed. And so she had somehow like opened the box. Like she's a very careful dog. Like she doesn't like tear into things. She's really quiet about it. She's really, really sneaky. And so yeah, she just like had opened it up and had her whole like head in, I think they were the pumpkin spice Cheerios, which are quite delicious. But yeah, I was just like quietly munching, just yeah. And so I had to learn.
This is the best dog food I've ever had.
Right.
This is amazing.
It's so seasonal. Yeah. So then, I was like, okay. So I had to keep, all the Cheerio boxes like up at a higher place so that she wouldn't eat all of them. And she's been hangry. Like she gets really hangry.
Well,
at about 4:45 every day. She just is, incessant with like pawing at me or being like, hey, or barking. And it's really easy, I think, because, in some ways you can be like, well, if a pet's overweight and unhealthy, like it's easy, just feed them less. If they're like eating boxes and not leave you alone, it's a whole lot easier said than done sometimes.
Yeah. Well, and you guys had the special challenge of trying to keep her like fit and mentally stimulated and trim while she had to recover from was that ACL surgery?
Yeah. So Sienna,
that's special.
ACL. Yeah. Like Gwen was like, my daughter was only like 3 months old or something, and we were sitting outside. I was having a cup of coffee. Sienna like bolted after a squirrel in the backyard, jumped off of our deck. Well, it's just like a porch. It's not very far, but she like launched herself forward. And yeah, I heard like not a good noise from a body. And then she yelped, and then her leg, like one of her back legs, her right back leg, then was just kind of like hanging, and I'm like, okay, that's probably not ideal. And yeah, so she tore ACL. And that was the other thing, was that Sienna, could eat a lot more when she had full mobility, but once she tore her ACL, and the rehab process for that is, much like a person, it takes, weeks and weeks and weeks to recover. It was like a full like month to 6 weeks that she was pretty much just limited to laying or just slowly walking to like eat or drink or to go to sleep. That was it, or to go to the bathroom. She couldn't go for walks or anything. And so she used to run with me. She was a very active dog. So it's like her stomach didn't understand that she was active. She still wanted the same amount of food. And she's a shepherd mix, and she's really, really brilliant. She's one of the smartest dogs I've ever encountered. She's also really neurotic, don't get me wrong, but she's awesome and smart. And so that's been one of the things that we've really tried to focus on, is although she can't be physically active, we can't wear her out that way like we used to. Now it is all about the games and the puzzles, and right now she's on like a joint supplement. We get 2 of those, and like I don't just hand them to her. I put them in one of those treat balls, so it's going to take her longer to eat. And now she's like used to it. Now she will come over to me, like, okay, I ate. Like, where's my treat ball? And that's when she gets her little supplements. But yeah, it can be really, really challenging. What about your cats, Margo?
Yeah, so I have 2 cats. I was raised with dogs, by the way, and a lot of golden retrievers, and they have their own like hip issues and stuff like that, and they're known for that. And we've had that problem. You have to feed them less because they're doing less, but you tell a golden retriever they can't eat as much. First of all, they're just so cute, you can't stand it. You don't want to like not feed them, but they also will give you a hard time. But I have 2 cats now, and the funny thing is one of them is really fat and needs to lose weight, and the other one's actually kind of skinny, and it's hard to keep weight on her. So she has to have food that binds her. So she has to have pumpkin in all of her wet food. And it took a while, but now she anticipates and she's okay with it. And that way she processes all the food. But the other one is just like the nightmare of all nightmares. And she doesn't like exercise. And she's a bit of a moody cat. She's on Prozac. Everybody thinks it's hilarious, but it works for her. She has her issues. But yeah, that's what I go through. So I feed them this high protein dry food, and there's the stuff they really, really like and the stuff that's okay. And I've learned, like, just get them the okay stuff, because I get the stuff they really like. It's expensive and they go through it so quickly. So that's what's going on in this apartment right now. Behavior issues and food.
Yeah. So my parents have a cat. His name is Tebow, and he's a very large cat. And I mean, he's like he is legitimately big boned. Like, I will give him that. He is big boned, but he also is a little on the heavy side, and he really, really likes food. And they took to giving him his food in a food puzzle. And, you have to be careful with cats, because they can, like, if they don't like the food you're giving them, or if they don't like the way you're giving it to them, they might just not eat, which is very bad. So, they were really careful about, like, giving him just like a little bit in there and still offering him his food. And he ended up loving his treat toy so much. And they were it's not filled with treats. It's filled with, like, his actual kibble, but that he only wants to eat his food out of there. And it's really cute. And let's be clear, he's not, like, chasing it around the house. He lays on his side, kind of like Jabba the Hutt, and, like, bats at it. But it's still more exercise than it would be of him just, like, sitting in front of his food dish, and it's more mentally stimulating. So that's been really it's been really cool to see him do that and just, like, love it. So that's, and it's hard for us with the treats toys and the puzzles, because we've got the two dogs and they only want to do what the other one is doing. So that ends up being a bit of a challenge here. But I'm such, like, their food bowls are actually, like, elevated, spinny, sectioned off things. So
they're cool.
They are cool. It slows them down a little bit, not a lot. It's still, it's like 90 seconds to eat, maybe, instead of 30. They're not mindful.
They're like, they don't understand what mindful eating. Like, they also don't understand intuitive eating. They're like, no, eat until I can't move, then eat more.
Every once in a while in those cat shows, I see they have, like, they'll take a big cat and they'll bring in this huge circle, and it's like a habit trail, but it's for cats, like they have for gerbils, and they'll put in there, just put the cat in there, and put a little treat thing, and then they'll get their exercise every single day. And I just know I would spend the money on something like that. They would do it maybe once or twice, and then I would just put laundry on it or something. They would just never take it into their lives. They would never adapt to it. I mean, it's a great idea, but I wish. So I say we just go right into this episode now with Travis Brorsen. What do you guys say?
Yeah.
Sounds good.
An obesity rate for dogs and cats is more than 50%. In Animal Planet's new series, My Big Fat Pet Makeover, pet expert and trainer Travis Brorsen begins a 4-month-long weight loss and behavior modification journey with pet owners and their overweight animals, with the aim of helping each pet live a healthier and happier life. Each show ends with Brorsen returning for a final weigh-in to see just how far the pets and pet owners have come along. Travis is a major advocate of promoting positive, calm behaviors and promoting overall health and wellness. He suggests owners include their pets in their own daily exercise routines when possible, and believes good nutrition for dogs is of great importance. He is here today to talk about his new show, plus offer our listeners advice on how to raise our pets in the healthiest way possible. Welcome to the show, Travis.
Hi, Margo and Kristen. How are y'all doing?
We're doing great today. We are so thrilled to have you on our show. So once again, everybody, this is FBG Margo and FBG Kristen. And Travis, I am going to ask you the first question. I am the owner of a fat cat who is not interested in exercise, but needs to lose a bit of belly weight from her. So what are your favorite tips for pet parents of fat kitties?
Sure. Well, I wish it was as simple as saying, let's feed less food and let's do more exercise. If it was that simple, everybody could do it. The problem is, less food is it's relative. Like, what is less food? How much extra are you feeding? Where is it coming from? Who's giving it? And then again, the exercise, we're dealing with a cat. So a lot of people are like, to get my cat to get off the couch is like a ridiculous request, right? So, what we do on the show is we really focus on getting in tune with the owners, what drives them, what motivates them, what are their lifestyles like? And then that way we can, relate through, what they enjoy in order to get their pets motivated. So, for instance, we had a cat on the show named Bo Nugget, and Bo Nugget had convinced his parents that he didn't want to do anything. He didn't want to play with any toys. All he wanted to do was eat. So all his owners did was feed him. They literally, when the bowl was empty, they would refill it again. So one of the first things, we recommend is that you measure out the food. Know exactly how much you're giving your pet so that if your pet is overweight, you know what, quote unquote, reducing the food actually means. You all being in great shape and doing a lot of exercise, calories are just as important to count for overweight pets as they are for overweight people. So knowing exactly how many calories your pet should be getting compared to the amount of exercise. And then wrap this question up with exercising the cat. We brought in a giant cat wheel, which looked like a humongous hamster wheel for this cat. And we got that cat on there and they were like, there's no way he's going to do it. There's no way he's going to do it. Well, even though we used food to motivate him on the cat wheel, we strategically used food from his, new reduced amount of intake for food that he was supposed to be having. So he was extra hungry, got him on the cat wheel. It wasn't extra food or extra calories. And that little guy, I shouldn't say little guy, that's a bad term. That big dude started walking on that treadmill and the owners were just in shock. So it's little things like that. It's just important that that I find what works for the owner's lifestyle so that they can make that connection with their pet.
Yeah. And would you say, kind of following up on that, I know, I changed my cat's food recently, and my vet was like, it gives you this huge range of, it's huge meaning like an eighth of a cup range per day, but my cat is 8 pounds. So that's actually quite a big range. And I have a really good relationship with my vet. So we just discuss what I've been feeding her and what food it is. And I found her to be a really good resource for figuring out exactly where I should start with that food. Is that what you would recommend, is talk to your vet, or do you have other resources that people might want to look to?
Yeah, that's a great question. There's nothing more confusing than what kind of food to give your pet. It is so confusing. And then when you buy it, like you said, you look at the back of the bag and it says, whether it's a cat or a dog, it'll say, if your pet weighs between 4 and 15 pounds,
right.
Feed it half a cup to a cup and a half. And you're like, well, wait. And so yes, obviously you start with the vet. They're the professional. I obviously can't get to everybody's home, but everybody should have a good vet they trust. And, and a quick tip is find out what your pet's ideal weight is, not necessarily what they currently weigh. And then once you know the ideal weight, then you want to portion to meet that weight. Because we had a pet on the show that weighed 50 pounds. Well, it was supposed to weigh, 35 to 38 pounds. Well, they were feeding it 2 cups a day for this dog, which is close to what you would feed a 50-pound dog. So they were maintaining his obesity the whole time they had him. And so, but they were going off the back of the bag. They just thought, well, he falls in that range. He's still hungry. We can feed him up to, X amount. And so, so it's all about, getting with your vet, finding what's healthy, what your pet weigh, and then knowing when it says on the back of the bag, those are for unspayed, unneutered, very active pets. That's what those are for on the back of the bag. If you have a couch potato, your pet doesn't fall in that, right? That's too many calories if you have a pet that isn't exercising. So that's another thing to keep in mind as well.
Thank you. Where do you stand personally on the wet food versus dry food for pets?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, you guys are full of these great questions, which is obviously why we're talking. So the big brand food companies, believe it or not, they actually have the money to do the research and to hire the nutrition specialists to get to the bottom line of what needs to be in pet food. Okay. So a dry dog food that is healthy and balanced, by a reputable company, has all the ingredients that your pet needs to survive. Right. So here's one of the common denominators in overweight pets. Somebody will start out feeding their pet dry food, and then they'll ask a friend, "Oh my gosh, my dog like their dry food, and they'll go, well, add some wet food to it, or add some chicken or add some whatever. And, and as soon as I hear this, I'm like, I don't love broccoli, but when you pour Velveeta cheese over it, I'll eat the whole plate. Mm-hmm. Right. And so, we have to be careful to know that these are really two separate meals. Now, if you're mixing them together, but cutting them in half, right, to equal the right portion, the right ounce size, the right measurement size, then at the end of the day, in my opinion, it's really up to what the owner likes. A lot of my owners, I'm like, what's convenient? Is it convenient for you to do the cans and mix them and do a little, doggy salad for your dog? And if it makes you feel good, do it. But at the end of the day, dry, wet, it can really be a personal preference, unless you're talking about specifically cats. And cats can really get a lot of the extra water out of that, that moisture dry food. For cats that don't drink enough water, wet food can be very, very helpful for them.
Awesome. All right. So I want to shift the focus for a second because as you were just talking, I had to put myself on mute because UPS came. And so my dogs went absolutely crazy over here. The perils of working from a home office. So really glad that question was your turn, Margo. But so I want to talk about hyper and excitable dogs.
Yeah.
Because obviously, giving them ample opportunity to run and play is ideal. But right now, we're getting into fall, and that means in a lot of parts of the country, winter is around the corner. Or, in my neck of the woods, there are times of the year when it's honestly just too hot to take them out for a long walk anytime, but like when it's totally dark out. So I wondered if you could share a few tips for helping dogs work off some of that energy indoors without having to deal with the weather.
Sure. Yeah. So as both of you know, when it comes to being healthy, it's not just about, physical, health and wellness. When you talk about a healthy person, we talk about you guys talk about, not just physically, but mentally as well. And it's the same for the dogs. Working a dog's mind, is so crucial to making a healthy dog, and a lot of that can be done inside. So, my background is in, training and behavior. So each element to this show, there's not just a weight loss element, but there's also a training element. So we have dogs, like you would appreciate this, that, bark at the doorbell, jump on, friends and neighbors that come over, dogs that are all over the furniture, have no rules. So it's really about this whole lifestyle change. And so to answer your question specifically, wintertime, indoors, what do we do with our pets? Well, you could go on Amazon, you could go anywhere, and you could find really, really fun food toys that are like puzzle toys. And what I encourage my owners to do with them is you don't need to put treats in them. Take their food, and again, assuming it's dry food, and if they're having half a cup for breakfast, take that half a cup of kibble, put it in that food ball, that food toy, that food puzzle, and make them work for their meal. That's what they crave to do. If we're going to go climb Mount Everest, it's work. But when we get to the top, how good do we feel? Well, I say we. I've never climbed Mount Everest and probably couldn't. I'm sure you two could. But dogs just love to accomplish things. They love to be challenged mentally and physically. So that's a great indoor activity. If you have stairs in your house and your dog obviously fetch, and you could do that, but fetch up and down the stairs, you could get going up and down the stairs. The dog would love to chase you. The dog doesn't see it as a workout, or cats obviously are a little more difficult, but cats love things that fly and move and make noise. So get some cat toys, and don't be afraid to get those things out and get your pets moving indoors. It's just easier to do than you think, but it does take effort from the owners.
So on your show, My Big Fat Pet Makeover, were there any pets in particular this season that you thought were especially challenging to help, and what tricks did you use to figure them out?
Sure. So, the big hurdles with these pets aren't the pet. It's the owners, mm-hmm. right? So, my job, obviously, if they just handed over the pet to me, I could take the pet and in 6 to 12 months I could hand it back and it would be a huge transformation. But if the owners don't make the commitment to change, the pet would just put the weight back on. And the whole benefit of having a pet is to enjoy the positive impact that they can have on your life through the process of raising them and growing this awesome bond and relationship that we can have with them. So first and foremost, my job is to reestablish that positive bond and relationship building with the pet and the owner. And once they've bought into that, it's really downhill from there. We had one challenging pet. Well, we had multiple, obviously, because it's a TV show. So there was lots of challenges. But we had a potbelly pig on the first season. And I don't know if you all have worked with pigs or know anybody with a potbelly pig. Do you?
I do.
No.
You do? You do know someone?
Yeah. I had a friend who kept them as pets. And they're like the most amazing pet ever. Yeah, they're wonderful.
Yeah, they are. And they're pigs in general are some of the smartest animals.
Yep.
And so smart that they can be the most stubborn as well. This was a family that lived on a ranch. They treated their potbelly pig like a pet. It came in the house. They painted its nails. It watched TV with them. Was supposed to weigh somewhere around 140, 150 pounds, and it weighed almost 200 pounds.
Oh, my God.
And of course, you think, potbelly pig, isn't it supposed to be fat? And I mean, again, is it supposed to be? Well, it depends on who you ask. Should it be? Is that the most healthy? Well, absolutely not. And so we had to implement exercise plans. Because it was a pig, it was going around, it was eating the chicken feed, it was eating the cat food, it was eating the horse feed. I mean, it was getting into the dog food, and then it would go eat nuts all day under the trees, right? And then just pass out from being so full. So we really had a challenge there. And honestly, again, back to the owners, the biggest challenge was getting the buy-in from the owners that they could actually do it. But people feel so guilty, Margo and Kristen. They feel their guilt overtakes them. And when I would come back for a check-in, a lot of the owners would say, well, we started off good, but then we just felt so bad, and all I could tell them was, well, you can feel bad now and add 2 years to your pet's life because you get them healthy, or you could not feel bad now and then lose your pet and wish you would have made the changes when you could. It's really just all about perspective.
That is such a good point.
Yeah, it really is. Now, I'm wondering, you help the owners to make these great changes for their pets. Do you see much change in the owners' fitness as they sort of embrace this new relationship and these new goals? Yeah,
great question. So, as you both know, for people in general, to form a new habit, we're looking at somewhere around 21 days, right? If you want to start a diet, if you want to go back to the gym, if you want to make a life change, we need at least 21 days to start to form that new habit. Well, believe it or not, it's not that much different for the pets. They really will fall in line when we start to change these habits. And because we made lifestyle changes, we were measuring out food, we were counting calories, we were putting together exercise routines on a daily basis with checklists, right? I mean, who did this today? Whose job was it? Check it off the list. And we move on for tomorrow. I mean, a lot like, human exercise plans and diets. And so, yes, the cat Bo Nugget, both of his parents lost weight. The wife lost close to 15 pounds in the 4 months, and the husband lost close to 35 pounds in the 4 months. And then the following month, the husband lost an additional 15 pounds for a total of 50 pounds.
Holy moly.
Wow.
I know.
Go Bo
right?
Nugget. That's amazing.
Yeah. But it was just what you all said. Like, we can get the whole family to buy in. These are lifestyle changes, right? It's not as simple as let's change the food, let's feed less, and let's go exercise, because that works for about 5 days.
Right.
And then everybody goes back to what they've been doing for so long because that's their old routine. So, my job was really, to be these families' cheerleader, to be their motivator, to be their accountability partner. Because at the end of the day, I don't have a chance with the pet if I can't get through to the owner.
So you grew up on a ranch in Oklahoma around many animals. Can you remember any early lessons you gained from that experience?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Well, this could be a whole nother podcast, ladies. We got to be careful here. I did. One of the ones that sticks out in my mind, and this came up with Baby, the potbelly pig on the ranch, because growing up on the ranch, it taught me so much. But one of the most important things with having not just household pets, but livestock in general was responsibility. Right. I was so distracted. I don't think they were diagnosing ADD or ADHD back when I was a little kid, but if they would have, I would have had them both over and over again, because I could not stay focused to save my life. And so I'd go out and I'd put the hose in the water trough with the pigs, fill it up, because it was a self-waterer where we had our pigs in the pig pen. And, one thing would lead to another, and I would just walk off and forget. And the next day, we'd wake up and like the whole half the pasture would just be like soaked in water. And of course, Dad and Mom pay the water bill, so that didn't go over too well. So what my dad did is he said, anytime with these pets, because you can't forget this kind of stuff, he said, you put the hose in, you pick up a rock, and you carry that rock around until you turn the water off. And I was like, well, I don't get it. And he goes, well, eventually you're going to go, why am I holding this rock? And then you're going to go, oh, it's because I left the water running on the pig trough, and you're going to go turn it off. And from that day forward, learning responsibility through having these pets was one of the biggest, benefits I learned growing up on a ranch.
That's really cool. I love that. Now, so we talked a little bit before about, what people can do indoors. And obviously, taking your animals for walks is great. But I wonder if you have some other fun activities and games and things that people can play with their dogs so that both the dog is getting exercise and ideally the person is getting some exercise, because I'm pretty sure our listeners are going to want to know about that.
Yeah. Well, for the pets, it's all about moving physically and mentally. So when we work with the owners, I always find out what do they enjoy doing and what do they do in their daily lives. I get it. A lot of people can't take their pets to work. I mean, if we could, the world would be a better place, right? But we just can't all do that. So whether it's hiking or running or, maybe I have some owners who would go to Home Depot, or they'd go to, an outdoor store. And I'm like, you can take your dogs to those places, right? So getting in the car is an activity, going to the place, walking around it, being stimulated by all the things that are around, a lot of outdoor coffee shops. There's outdoor restaurants you can take your pets to. When you think about it, you walk to the car, you drive there, you walk from the car to the place, you sit there. Mentally and emotionally, they're working their minds. You can be working on things when you're there, where you can be working on sit and stay and quiet. But really, it's all about how do we incorporate, our pets' activities into what we normally do instead of just choosing to leave them at home. At home, again, a rainy day, well, what I love to do, I mean, cats will love this too, but especially the dogs, is we build indoor obstacle courses, like you would for a kid, back in the, when you were a child, and we would take the furniture and we'd move it around, and then we would take our dog through the obstacle course and then go up and around and over the cushion and under the coffee table. And, there's just a lot of different things that you can do to get those pets moving, but you have to get creative sometimes. And, to not do anything is not an answer.
So I mentioned in your introduction that you're a major advocate of promoting positive, calm behaviors for your pets. And the fat cat that I mentioned before, I love her to death, but she's also on Prozac because she has a bit of a mood disorder. And I've learned over time, like, she's so sensitive to my moods. Like, if I get impatient or angry about something, she really feels it. Do you find that happens with other people? Have you come across that with other clients?
Yeah, absolutely. And you're just spot on. When it comes to this whole positive reinforcement movement, what it's really saying, what it really means is that we want to use things that give animals, pets, positive experiences, positive vibes, whether it's praise or food or toys, and we want to reward the good decisions that they're making or motivate them to make those good choices. If we do that and we start to mold these great habits, we're going to see less of the bad habits happening. The latest research shows that when we use any type of force with pets, instead of them making a connection, because I did this, my owner did this to me in that response. The pet actually starts to associate the owner, the human, with pain. The pet doesn't go, because I got into the trash can, my owner, yanked my collar, or my owner, yelled profusely at me. The dog goes, I'm scared of that human. I'm scared of that person. And I don't know if I want to get close to them. And mentally, that's breaking. So you're right. These pets really do mold to our attitudes. And when it comes to health and wellness, pets need to be around, people that can help nurture that. And if you are a sad soul, or you have had something bad happen, those pets know it, and they're there to help you through it. It's just important we don't take any of it out on them, because that is very, very confusing to them.
Yeah. Now, you had mentioned, I think, sit, stay, and quiet as commands that maybe people could work with their dogs on when they're out in public. Do you have other commands that you think are really important for dog owners to work on with their pets, either in terms of like keeping that animal safe, or in terms of encouraging them to be more active?
Yeah, of course. So all basic obedience, and you listed some, and I can list a few more, but sit, stay, come is one of the most important behaviors you can teach, your pet. Obviously, if dogs, most importantly, because they tend to be outside more often, but it can be a life-saving command. If you're walking down the sidewalk, your dog gets off the leash and is next to the road, and you can say, hey, Buster, come, and that dog comes, barreling towards you, you potentially have just saved your dog's life from running into the street and being hit. What I encourage my owners to do is to use the meal times as short little training sessions. So if you feed in the morning and you feed at night, and you have 5 minutes to feed breakfast and 5 minutes to feed your dog or cat the meal, use that 5 minutes and use their food to reinforce those basic obedience commands, whether it's you're working on sit or stay or come, even if you're doing little tricks like roll over and paw and high five and wave. All of those things are engaging your pet's mind. You're making them work. And you, more than anything, you are growing that bond and that relationship with your pet, because you're engaging them in something positive and something that is helping them. You're really enriching their lives through that type of thing. And when you look back on it, we're talking about 5 minutes in the morning, 5 minutes at night, 10 minutes a day that you could be working on these, that then you could end up being outside. And these commands, one, you could either be the hit of the party because your pet knows so many great behaviors and commands, but you could also potentially save your pet's life.
So how did you hook up with Animal Planet for the show? How did they find you?
Yeah, so I lived in Los Angeles for 9 years. Of course, I grew up on the ranch, and I was the oldest of four, and there was no way I was going to go back and drive the tractor after I graduated from college, even though I did. And for like 2 months I was there, and I was like running the tractor into the fence and, messing up the mower. And I don't know how much you all know about farm equipment, but it is like, you think vehicles are expensive, like a Mercedes-Benz. Well, you talk about farm equipment, it's like triple.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's right. It is crazy. It is so crazy. So, but I was just daydreaming about doing something else. And my parents, they're so great. And they were like, hey, if you want to go, like, totally go. Like, we will support you. They're like, not financially. We're not giving you any money. They're like, you have a college degree. You can do it on your own. But they said, go do it. I think they expected me to, come back within the year, and I took off to Los Angeles, and I never looked back. I did acting for about 8 years and was able to do that solely for the last 5 years of being out there. And in 2008, there was a writer's strike. I don't know if you all remember that or not, but as an actor, when there's a writer's strike, it's like, well, they're not writing any more episodes for shows. And I had just gotten a boxer puppy named Presley, and he was really my first dog that was, all mine. Mm-hmm. And I made a lot of mistakes with him. I wasn't a trainer at the time. I was just the owner of a dog. And I didn't know a lot what I was doing. I always got really frustrated. And there was this reality show on CBS called Greatest American Dog. The whole concept of the show was to bring an owner and their dog, and they were going to have 12 pairs, and to see who could grow the best bond and relationship with their pet over the course of these 10-week challenges. And they found us in Runyon Canyon, and they ran up to us and they said, oh my gosh, your dog's, was that your dog? And at the time, I mean, Presley, poor thing, when I would say his name, he would run the other way. Like he was not obedient. He was the opposite. He was the typical guy and dog. And so they asked me if that was my dog. And I said, well, did he do something to you? Like, is he in trouble? Because I maybe I shouldn't claim him. And they're like, no, he's great. He's great. And they told me about the show. And one thing led to another. We ended up being the 12th pair picked for this reality show on CBS. And we were actually picked to be the laughing stock of the reality show. And we worked so hard. We ended up winning the show. Presley went from being like the most annoying pet I thought I could ever have to literally my soulmate in a pet, just my absolute best friend. I learned about positive reinforcement and making things fun and keeping it short. And it just changed my life, I mean, to be honest with you. And so we developed a children's curriculum around character education and bully prevention in 2010. And then licensed it to a company called Frog Street Press out of Grapevine, Texas. I'm bringing this full circle. The production company for the show was out of Austin, Texas, called Castleview Productions. And they were just doing Google search on dog trainers for this show that we now have. And by the time they found me, I had moved on to New York with my wife and was here and have a dog training company here. And so they just tracked me down through the children's curriculum company, and they led to me. And 2 years ago, they pitched me the idea, and I said, I love it. Let's do it. I went to Austin, Texas to shoot the pilot. I did it for free because I love the idea. And in the last year and a half, we spent pitching it to different networks and getting told no, like everybody does in life. And we stuck with it. And here we are. We have a 6-episode first season.
Well, congratulations on that. You've had a lot of successes right there just in that story, but that is really exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, I think that probably we're all feeling the urge to go snuggle our pets a little bit after this.
Absolutely.
At least I am. The Holly hasn't come back from the UPS guy, so I don't have anybody snuggling at my feet right now. But we have one question that we ask everybody at the end of each episode, and that is, what is the last song you listened to before you joined us for this interview?
Wow.
I know, it's a tough.
Okay, you guys are going to love this.
Can't wait.
Ready?
Yes.
Yes.
I'm actually not going to sing it, but I mean, I'm kind of, because,
you can.
My wife and I can't, okay, I will. And then you guys can tell me if do either one of you have children?
No.
Okay. So you may not know this, but you may. You never know. You might have nieces, little nephews. So my wife and I, we have a 6-month-old, and here's the song that I hear every single day. I bet you'll be able to figure it out. It's hot dog, hot diggity dog, hot dog, hot diggity dog. It is from the Mickey Mouse Club on Disney Channel, and that hot dog diggity dog song will never get out of my head, and it's the last song I heard today. And if it wasn't, it may as well been, because I can't get it out of my head.
That is awesome. That's a great answer.
And really quite appropriate given the topic of our conversation.
Oh my gosh, you know what? I did not even think about that. That is hilarious. I wish I had planned that. Oh my gosh, I didn't. That was totally came to me, ladies. That's how it works. Totally came to me.
This will totally forevermore be known as the hot diggity dog episode.
You're the first person to sing to us, by the way. So thank you for that. That was awesome.
Okay, good. Well, my wife is actually a Broadway singer, so she will probably not be impressed that I chose to actually sing to you ladies. But anyway, I'm sure she'll give me a pass because it was about our son Blue, so we'll be okay.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah. Margo, Kristen, thank you so much. And, hey, the show comes out this Saturday. It's going to be September 30th, and we're really excited, 10 p.m. Eastern, check it out. And I would love to visit with you guys again sometime and hear what you think about the show.
Absolutely.
Perfect.
Love this show? Tell us why in a 5-star review on iTunes, and we'll read it on the air. Also, make sure you are a subscriber. If you want to reach out to say hi or have a question about a recent episode, well, feel free to email us at podcast@fitbottomgirls.com. And if this podcast jives perfectly with your brand, consider sponsoring the show. Get more info by emailing advertising@fitbottomgirls.com. Find all kinds of Fit Bottom goodness online and on social media at Fit Bottom Girls, Fit Bottom Mamas, Fit Bottom Eats, and Fit Bottom Zen. And if books and movies are your thing, check out the other podcast I co-host called Book versus Movie, which you can find anywhere where you search for podcasts. Thanks for listening.